Hello, beautiful people. Let's make chocolate bread. Chocolate lovers, you will love this one. We'll start by adding milk into a large bowl, and I brought in the yeast and the sugar. We're going to mix all this in, mix it to combine properly for the yeast to be completely dissolved. Now I brought in oil, and we'll also stir this to combine properly. And I brought in my bread flour. I also brought in cocoa powder, and I brought in salt also, and we're going to mix all this to form a shaggy dough. Please note that your yeast must be alive. If it's not alive, that means your dough will not rise. So if you're not sure whether your yeast is still alive or not, you cover it after mixing it with the sugar and allow it to bloom for up to 5 minutes. If it doesn't bloom, discard it and get another one. Now I came in with my washed hands. I'm going to turn this dough into a ball shape. If you observe, this dough is a bit sticky. And I brought in some cooking oil. I'll rub it all over the bowl. This will help the dough not to stick to the bowl when we are proofing it. We'll not be kneading this. Each time I make chocolate bread, I don't usually knead because of the color. I use a method called autolysis. I'll cover it with my plastic wrap and I'll allow it sit on my counter for up to 2 hours. By 2 hours, this should have doubled in size. If you live in the cold regions, you might need to send this to a warm place. And this is after 2 hours. Here is my bread pan. I brought in cooking oil and I'm going to spread it all over the pan. This will help the bread not to stick to the pan when it's coming out from the oven. You can also use butter or cooking spray for this. And I'll set the pan aside. Now let's shape our dough. I'll spread out a little flour on my work surface and I'll bring in the dough. This dough is quite sticky, so I'm not going to submerge my hands inside the dough. Observe how I'm wrapping it up. Gently, I'm bringing it together to form a ball shape. What we are doing here is strengthening the dough structure. Remember, we didn't need this, but we are still going to have a nice loaf of chocolate bread. We'll get this dough to be tight and nice. And now I'm cutting this into 3 places. If you want exact measurements, please use your kitchen scale, but I'm randomly cutting mine. And we're going to fold each of this dough into a ball shape. If you observe carefully, you see that I'm not sticking my hands in the middle of the dough. I'm wrapping it up by the sides so that my hand doesn't get sticky with the dough, because the outside is still firm but the inside is not as firm as the outside. Remember, at Glory Homemaker, we give you value for your time. Now let's shape each of the dough. I'm also going to apply flour on my rolling pin. This will help it not to stick to the dough, and we're going to roll it out. Bread making is a skill I think every family should be aware of. I know many people are saying don't eat bread, don't eat bread, but we still have children who still do eat bread. And I think making it at home is still a better option. Now we'll fold this dough. Roll it, and when we get to the edges, we are going to pinch it together so that it doesn't open up in the pan. Let's do this one more time. Practice they say makes perfect. You can also do this. It's not rocket science. One good thing you should note when making bread is to have an active yeast. What I mean is that your yeast should be alive. If you got a yeast pack that you didn't finish all at once, you should store this in an airtight container. That way, when you want to use it next time, your yeast will still be very good. But if you just toss it around and don't store it in an airtight container, the likelihood of it not being active for your next use might not be guaranteed. So I used unsweetened cocoa powder for this recipe. If you have a sweet tooth, you might have to use the sweetened cocoa powder. And the quantity of cocoa powder to add also depends on you. If you want it very dark, that means you have to add more cocoa powder than I did. But I just wanted mine not too dark and not too light. And we will send them all to our greased bread pan. Snuck it in, and we'll cover this to rest on my counter here for up to 40 minutes to 1 hour. If you live in the cold regions like the UK, US, Canada, you have to send this to a warm place to prove. And if you live in the warm regions, also bear in mind that on cloudy days or rainy days, it might take up to 1 hour or more before it doubles in size. And this is after 40 minutes. Mine has risen so well. Now we're going to send this to a preheated oven, and we'll be baking at 180 degrees Celsius between 25 minutes to 30 minutes. That means I started preheating my oven before now, and I'm going to spray this dough with my water bottle. That also helps give it a better rise. If you want your bread to have a shiny color when coming out of the oven, you'll have to give it an egg wash or milk wash. And our bread is right out from the oven. My kitchen right now smells so amazing. Look at this delicious chocolate bread. Have a closer look. And quickly we are going to take it out from the pan before it starts sweating. If it sweats in the pan, it might be difficult to get it out from the pan. And also note that when your bread comes out from the oven, if you're not finishing the entire loaf at once, you have to allow it to cool completely before cutting into it, because the bread continues to cook even when it's out from the oven. And here I applied butter on top of our chocolate bread. This is totally optional. If you love chocolates and you also like your bread, this is a recipe you will have to try out. I always say that homemade breads are the best. The taste and the texture is different from what you buy from outside. And once you make your own bread at home, you will not be tempted to buy bread from outside anymore. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.